My stepmom called me a family ATM, so I cut her off. Before we begin the story, make sure to subscribe to our channel and never miss more incredible stories every day. You already know how this works, Claire, Denise said, tapping her wine glass with one manicured nail. You're basically the family ATM. Everybody at the table heard her. My father looked down at his plate. Tyler smirked like she'd said something clever. Aunt Rosa froze with her fork halfway to her mouth. And I sat there in my navy cardigan, still wearing the school ID badge I'd forgotten to take off after a 10-hour day, trying to decide whether humiliation could actually make your skin go cold. I'm 29, and I teach 3rd grade at a public school on the south side of Columbus. It's not glamorous. It's not lucrative. But it's honest, and every dollar I make has a name before it even clears. Rent, student loans, gas, groceries. The emergency fund I kept trying to build and kept draining every time someone in my father's house had a crisis. Usually Tyler. Usually through Denise. Always wrapped in that same soft, poison language. Family helps family. We'll get you back next month. Don't keep score with people you love. By that dinner, I had heard those lines so many times they felt stitched into my nervous system. I didn't even ask questions anymore. I just checked my balance and figured out what I could move around. $700 for Tyler's breaks in March. $184 just enough to get through the week in April. $900 for the air conditioner in June because Denise said Martin's blood pressure couldn't handle the heat. $243 for groceries in July after she sent me a photo of an empty fridge that I later realized was cropped to hide a brand new catered fruit tray on the counter. That night was supposed to be my father's birthday dinner. I'd paid for the cake because Denise said the bakery had messed up her card. I'd also picked up balloons on my lunch break and a bottle of the bourbon Martin liked, but never bought for himself. I walked in tired and still willing. I walked in thinking I was a daughter. Then Denise laughed after saying it. Like cruelty became harmless if your teeth showed. I set my napkin beside my plate and heard my own voice before I felt ready to use it. If that's what I am to you, I said, the machine is out of service. Denise's smile vanished so fast it scared me. When my mom died, I was 16, angry and old enough to notice how quickly adults turned grief into logistics. My father, Martin, handled loss the way he handled everything uncomfortable, by moving around it. He went back to work early, stopped saying her name, and filled the house with practical noise. New locks, new routines, new dishes because the old ones held too many memories. A year and a half later, Denise appeared with soft cardigans, with a voice that made everything sound reasonable. She never came in like a villain. That would have been easier. She came in carrying a lasagna and calling me sweetheart. She remembered my debate competitions and asked about college. She told people I'd been through enough and squeezed my shoulder in ways that looked kind. Denise was too smart for open warfare. She built herself into the house slowly, like a smell you stop noticing until all your clothes carry it. My father remarried her 11 months after introducing us. The first money favor came 2 years later, when I was 20 and living in a dorm 40 minutes away. Denise called me crying because Tyler, who was 18 then and already a specialist in excuses, had gotten stranded after his debit card was compromised. She needed $85 sent right away so he could get gas and make it home. I had exactly $214 in checking and a biology textbook on hold at the bookstore. Claire, I would never ask if it wasn't serious, she whispered. Your father is in meetings all day, and Tyler is panicking. I sent it. Denise texted 3 heart emojis, and, you saved us. That should have been nothing. Families spot each other sometimes. But what made it stick was how easily the script formed around it. Denise was the overwhelmed coordinator. Tyler was the helpless mess. My father was unavailable, but still the silent center of every decision. And I was the reliable one. The one who didn't make things harder. The one who understood. A month later, Denise asked for $40 for groceries until Friday. Then $120 when Tyler accidentally overdrafted. Then $63 for Martin's prescription because her wallet was in the other car. Every request came with a tiny moral test inside it. And every time, I chose being useful over being careful. By the time I finished college and started teaching, sending money to that house had become background noise in my life. Just constant. Denise had a talent for making each request sound isolated, unrelated to the last one, like weather. In September, It was $317 for Tyler's phone because he needs it for job interviews. In October, for $160 toward a rent gap because he was between checks. In November, Denise asked if I could cover Thanksgiving groceries since she was hosting, and you know how expensive food is now. I bought 3 bags of ingredients and still got a text from her in the parking lot asking if I could also grab foil trays, ice, and sparkling cider. When I hesitated, she sent, "I hate asking. You're just the only dependable one." Dependable. That word worked on me like a key. I had spent my whole childhood trying to be the easy daughter after my mother got sick. Quiet, high-achieving, low-maintenance. By 24, I had a 1-bedroom apartment with secondhand furniture, a color-coded planner, and a habit of treating every family emergency like a test I had to pass. Tyler never paid me back. He always had a speech ready. "I'm close on something big," he'd say. "Soon as it hits, I got you." Nothing ever hit except another request. New tires. Court fees for a traffic ticket he swore wasn't his fault. Half a security deposit. Work boots for a warehouse job he quit in 9 days. Birthday money for Denise's sister because we can't show up empty-handed. Flowers for Martin's anniversary because Denise forgot and didn't want him hurt. I knew some of it was ridiculous. I'm not naive enough to pretend I believed every story. But the lies were never clean enough to confront. There was always a thread of truth woven in. Tyler did have a car. Martin did need medication. Groceries did cost money. Denise never asked for a yacht or a vacation. She asked for things that would make me look heartless if I refused. And there was something else I'm embarrassed to admit. I liked being needed. Not because it felt good exactly. It felt familiar. In their house, usefulness was the closest thing to closeness. The total never looked huge when you took it 1 week at a time. That was how they taught me not to see it. The night Denise called me the family ATM happened on Saturday, October 12th, at a restaurant called Belmore House where none of us should have been eating. It was one of those places with cloth napkins, candles in little glass cylinders, and entrees so overpriced I checked the menu twice before ordering. Denise had picked it because my father had gotten a bonus, or at least that's what she said in the family group chat. She posted a photo before we sat down. Martin in a blazer, Tyler in a collared shirt. Denise turned toward the light like the evening existed to be documented. I came straight from a school fundraiser and still smelled faintly like poster paint. When the check came, Denise patted her purse dramatically and said, "Oh my God, Martin, I thought you moved money over." My father frowned at the folder like numbers had personally offended him. "I'm a little tight until Monday." Tyler laughed. "We've got Claire." I thought it was a joke until Denise turned to me and smiled. "Exactly. She's basically the family ATM. There's a specific kind of silence that follows a cruel thing nobody wants to call cruel." My father took a sip of water. Tyler grinned into his glass. The server stood there pretending not to hear. Aunt Rosa, who had joined us because she was in town, looked directly at Denise and said, "That wasn't cute." Denise lifted one shoulder. "Oh, relax. Claire knows I'm kidding." I looked at the bill. $286. 14 before tip. More than my electric bill that month. "No," I said. "Actually, I don't." Denise's smile tightened. "We're celebrating your father." "I brought his gift," I said. "I'm not covering dinner." Martin finally spoke, not to Denise, but to me. "Claire, don't make this into a scene." That did it. Not the joke. Not Tyler's smirk. My father asking me to absorb one more humiliation so everyone else could stay comfortable. I slid my card back into my wallet. My hands were shaking, which made me furious, because Denise looked perfectly calm. "If I'm only useful when my card comes out," I said, "then tonight you can figure it out without me." I should have left then. Instead, Denise leaned across the table and lowered her voice. The second Denise dropped the smile, the whole table changed. "Fine," she said quietly. "If we're being honest, I was going to ask you for help anyway." Aunt Rosa set down her fork. "Denise." "No, let's not pretend," Denise said. "Martin doesn't need a ruined birthday because Claire is suddenly making a point." I stared at her. "Help with what?" Denise glanced at my father, then back at me, performing reluctance. "Tyler is short on rent again. It's temporary. He's behind $1,200, and if he doesn't pay by Monday, they start the eviction process." Tyler muttered, "It's not even like that." Denise snapped, "Then explain it better." He looked at me with that same sheepish face that had drained me for years. "My hours got cut. I was going to tell you next week. I almost laughed. Next week, like I'd won some delay instead of another invoice. Why are you telling me this at dinner? I asked. Because timing is not the issue, Denise said. Family is. Martin rubbed his forehead. Claire, if you can help, help. We'll smooth it out later. That was my father's favorite phrase for every mess he didn't want to examine. I did the math automatically. Rent was due on my apartment in 5 days. My transmission had started making a grinding noise. I had $3,940 in savings, which looked responsible until you remembered how fast real life could eat it. And I had already paid for a birthday dinner in my head before Denise called me a machine. Why can't Tyler pay his own rent? Aunt Rosa asked. Tyler scoffed. Why is she even involved? Because somebody in this family should ask questions, Rosa said. Denise ignored her. Claire, please. I would never ask for this if it wasn't serious. The scary part is that she knew exactly how to say please when she wanted something. Soft. Injured. Like my hesitation was the violence, not the demand. I looked at Tyler's watch then, silver, heavy, obviously new. He caught me staring and tugged his sleeve down too late. Maybe I would have missed it any other night. Then Tyler's phone lit up with a notification that changed everything. I wasn't trying to snoop. Tyler was sitting across from me, and his phone screen flashed bright enough for half the table to see. What caught my eye wasn't the app itself, but the photo at the top of the notification. Tyler grinning on a rooftop bar patio with 2 friends, holding a bottle with a giant sparkler stuck in it. The caption preview read, "Last night was reckless." Last night. The same last night Denise later described, by text, as Tyler staying in and panicking over bills. He swiped the notification away too fast, but the damage was done. I said nothing at the restaurant. Denise kept pressing, my father kept shrinking into silence, and Aunt Rosa finally announced she was leaving. I left with her. In the parking lot, under a flickering light, she turned to me and said, "Tell me you're not sending that money." "I don't know," I admitted. "If he gets evicted." "Claire," she said, sharp enough to stop me. "An emergency is one thing. A family business model is another." I drove home with my stomach in knots. At 10:14 p.m., Denise texted, "Tyler is humiliated. If you're punishing him because of my joke, that's cruel." At 10:19, "Please don't let pride make this worse." At 10:27, "He may have nowhere to go." Then at 10:31, Tyler posted a story publicly by accident before deleting it 4 minutes later. Somebody had screenshotted it, and because the internet loves chaos, the same picture landed in a local tag repost account Aunt Rosa followed. Tyler at the same rooftop bar. Timestamped Friday, 11:48 p.m. Bottle service. 2 friends tagged. 1 comment. Worth every dollar. I stared at my phone for a full minute. Then I opened our messages and scrolled back. March 3rd. Can you spot me for breaks? April 19th. Mom's card got locked. June 11th. Dad's meds. July 28th. We're out of groceries. August 16th. Just until payday. September 4th. Rent gap. October 12th. Eviction by Monday. The stories changed. The tone never did. At 11:02 p.m., Denise called. I let it ring, then ring again. She left a voicemail so sweet it made my teeth hurt. "Claire, honey, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Call me back so we can clear this up." That was the first moment I felt it. Not anger, exactly. Pattern. And once I saw the pattern, I couldn't stop pulling at it. The next day was Sunday, and I spent 6 straight hours doing something I should have done years earlier, accounting. I made coffee, sat cross-legged on my living room floor, and opened every app I'd ever used to send money. Venmo, Zelle, Cash App, my banking app, old emails, screenshots buried in my camera roll, notes I'd typed to myself when I was too stressed to sleep. I made a spreadsheet because that's the kind of person long-term manipulation turns you into. Someone who needs formulas before they trust their own memory. I started with the obvious transfers. $85, $40, $317, $460, $63. Then bigger ones. $900 for an air conditioner on June 14th 2 summers earlier. $1,100 for Tyler's security deposit on January 5th. $675 for Dad's dental crown. $242. $81 for groceries on November 22nd. $300 for Tyler's new uniform. $520 after Denise claimed a pipe burst in the laundry room. There was always a story. A deadline. A sigh. A reminder that I was the one they could count on. By noon, I had a headache and a number that made my chest feel hollow. $18,430. 67. That wasn't even counting gifts I'd bought because Denise said money was tight. Birthday cakes. Holiday groceries. Graduation decorations for Tyler's community college ceremony that he never attended because he dropped the class the week before. Gas cards. Restaurant tabs. School fundraiser items Denise volunteered me to sponsor because teachers always know generous people. I sat there staring at the total and thinking about what that money could have been. A paid-off car. A real emergency fund. The vacation I canceled twice. The dental work I kept postponing because I couldn't justify it right now. I thought about the nights I ate scrambled eggs for dinner after sending Denise $200. The Saturdays I tutored for extra cash. The way I said no to myself so easily and yes to them so automatically. At 1:16 p.m., Denise sent another text. Checking in. I know you're upset, but Tyler really needs an answer. I looked at my spreadsheet, then at the screenshot Aunt Rosa had sent of Tyler's rooftop bar post. Instead of replying, I clicked Tyler's public profile. And suddenly the $1,200 emergency felt like an insult with a receipt. I tried to handle it gently at first, which now feels almost funny. At 2:03 p.m., I texted Denise. Before I send anything, I need clarity. If Tyler is facing eviction, I want to see the notice and the ledger from his leasing office. She answered in under a minute. Wow, just that. One word. Then, you don't trust us now? I wrote back. I'm asking for documentation. 3 dots appeared, vanished, returned. After everything your father and I have done for you. This is humiliating. I stared at the message so long my phone dimmed. That line worked because it was absurd and familiar at the same time. My father and Denise had not funded my life. I had scholarships, loans, and a part-time campus job. After college, I paid my own bills. But Denise's favorite trick was to act like emotional inclusion counted as material sacrifice, then cash it in later with interest. A minute later, Martin called. I almost didn't answer, but I did, because some part of me still believed hearing my father's voice might anchor reality. Instead, he sighed and said, "Why are you escalating this?" I asked for proof. Tyler is embarrassed. I'm embarrassed, I said. Denise called me the family ATM in public. He paused. She shouldn't have said that. But everybody was tense. Don't blow up the family over wording. Over wording. Like the problem was phrasing, not years of expectation wrapped around my throat. I added it up. I said before I could lose nerve. I've given you guys over $18,000. Martin went quiet. I heard a television in the background, then Denise asking, "What is she saying?" Finally, he said, "That can't be right." It is. You're counting gifts. I'm counting money I would not have spent if Denise hadn't asked. He exhaled hard. Claire, families do for each other. Then why does it only go one direction? That was when Denise got on the call. No hello. No pretense. You are keeping score like a stranger, she said. Honestly, it's ugly. I almost apologized. Then Denise said the one sentence that stopped me cold. If you want receipts so badly, she snapped. Ask Tyler where your money went last night. The crazy part is Denise probably meant that as a threat. Instead, it cleared the room in my head. Because if she wanted me to ask Tyler where the money went, fine. I would ask. But not in the old way, not with pleading, not with me positioned as the difficult one for wanting honesty. I called Tyler directly. He answered on the third ring with music in the background. What? Where did the rent money go? A pause. What rent money? The $1,200 Denise says you need by Monday. He let out a sound halfway between a laugh and a cough. Why are you calling me about that? Talk to Denise. No, I'm talking to you. More silence. Then, it's not all rent. Something hot and clean moved through me. How much is rent, Tyler? Like $600. Like $600? I'm short $640, okay? And I had some other stuff hit. What stuff? He got defensive immediately. Why are you interrogating me? I didn't ask for the stupid dinner speech. There it was. Not shame. Not gratitude. Irritation that I was making access to my money less convenient. I took a breath. What's the rest for? Credit cards, he muttered. And IOJ from the weekend. From the weekend. The rooftop bar. Bottle service. New sneakers. I looked at my spreadsheet, at the total that had rearranged my understanding of my own adulthood. Then I'm not sending anything, I said. He laughed again, meaner this time. Wow, Denise was right. You really do think you're better than everybody. That sentence reached way deeper than it should have. Denise had been planting that idea for years, that my caution was judgment, that my stability was arrogance, that every boundary I tried to set was me acting superior. But for the first time, I recognized the trick while it was happening. No, I said, I just think my paycheck belongs to me. He hung up on me. At 4:42 p.m., I sent the message that terrified me more than any argument ever had. I'm not sending money anymore. Not for rent, groceries, bills, gifts, emergencies, or anything labeled temporary. I need distance, and I need this boundary respected. I stared at the screen, thumb shaking above send. Then I pressed it before fear could turn me back into their solution. The backlash started in under 3 minutes. First, Denise, I am heartbroken that this is who you've become. Then Martin, let's all calm down and talk tomorrow. Then Tyler, don't worry, nobody wants anything from you again. That would have been almost funny if it had stayed between us. It didn't. At 5:01, the family group chat changed names from Martin Birthday Weekend to Family First. Denise sent a long paragraph about how money has poisoned relationships and how she was deeply saddened that generosity was now being weaponized. She never named me directly, which somehow made it worse. A cousin I barely spoke to replied, "Sorry you're dealing with this." Another aunt sent a praying hands emoji. I typed 6 different responses and deleted all of them. Then Denise posted a screenshot of my message, with the top cropped so it looked like I had randomly announced I was cutting them off, not like I was responding to a fresh request for $1,200 after being humiliated in public. Aunt Rosa entered the chat with one line. Post the message before that too. Silence. Then Denise wrote, I will not participate in public shaming. I laughed out loud in my apartment and immediately started crying. That was the thing nobody warns you about when you finally set a boundary. It doesn't feel powerful at first. It feels sickening. Your body has been trained to associate compliance with safety, so when you stop complying, every nerve acts like danger is everywhere. I checked my locks. I muted the group chat, unmuted it, muted it again. I kept expecting my father to call and say something clear, something paternal, something that sounded like truth. At 7:12 p.m., he finally did call. Can you loan the rent portion? He asked quietly. The actual rent. I leaned against the counter and shut my eyes. Dad, I'm trying to keep peace. No, I said. You're trying to keep Denise from being upset. That's unfair. What's unfair is that you watched her call me an ATM and still think this is about one payment. He went silent long enough for me to hear myself breathing. Then he said, almost irritated, you are making this much bigger than it needed to be. For a second, I caved just to end the nausea. Then someone knocked on my apartment door at 7:26 p.m. I looked through the peephole and saw Aunt Rosa holding a plastic grocery bag and wearing the same expression she'd had at the restaurant. Not surprised, just done. The second I opened the door, I started crying again, which was humiliating because Rosa is not a soft, tissue and affirmation kind of person. She walked in, set the bag on my counter, and said, I brought soup, crackers, and a legal pad. Pick a lane. I laughed through tears. That's maybe the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me. She took off her coat and looked around my apartment. The thrifted lamp, the stack of school papers on the chair, the grocery list I'd left on the table with eggs circled twice because prices kept rising. You know what Denise counted on? Rosa asked. That you'd be too decent to document ugly behavior. I handed her my laptop. She read through the spreadsheet, the texts, the screenshots, Tyler's rooftop photo, the cropped group chat post. Her mouth got flatter with every scroll. This isn't borrowing, she said. It's extraction. That word hit me harder than ATM had. Extraction. Something taken, not given. For the next 2 hours, Rosa helped me organize everything by date. January 5th, Tyler's security deposit, $1,100. March 3rd, brakes, $317. June 14th, AC repair, $900. November 22nd, groceries, $242. 81. October 12th, rent request after public insult, $1,200. Next to each item, we added evidence. Text thread, bank transfer, contradiction, social post, witness. Stop writing explanations. Rosa said when she saw me drafting paragraphs in the margins. Facts first. You keep trying to earn the right to your own boundary. That line lodged in me. Around 10 p.m. Martin texted, "Can we do dinner Wednesday and talk like adults?" Rosa read it over my shoulder and snorted. Nothing says adult accountability like scheduling it after a smear campaign. I should have ignored him. Instead, I wrote back, "I'll come if we discuss everything openly. No ambush. No rewriting." Denise replied from his phone almost instantly. "Of course. We have nothing to hide." Rosa and I looked at each other. Then she reached for the legal pad and wrote one sentence in big block letters. "Bring copies." I didn't know yet that Wednesday would split the family clean down the middle. Wednesday dinner happened at my father's house, which Denise still called our home in that polished voice of hers, though every room felt staged. The dining table was already set when I arrived. Candles, water glasses, cloth napkins. Performance. Tyler was there, slouched and defensive. Martin looked pale. Denise met me at the door wearing cream slacks and a sympathetic expression, as if she were hosting a healing circle instead of an intervention. "So glad you came," she said softly. Aunt Rosa walked in right behind me carrying a tote bag full of printed pages. Denise's expression twitched. Dinner lasted 7 uncomfortable minutes before Denise folded her hands and said, "Claire, I think everyone would love to understand why you've become so hostile." I almost admired it. The speed. The reframing. I put my fork down. "Okay." Then I opened the folder. The room changed the minute paper hit wood. "I want to keep this simple," I said. "For years, I've been asked for money under the label of temporary help. I added the transfers I could verify. The total is $18,430. 67, not including groceries, gifts, restaurant bills, and things bought on my card." Tyler muttered, "That's insane." "Yes," I said. "It is." I slid copies down the table. Denise didn't touch hers. Martin did, but barely. "January 5th, last year," I said. $100 for Tyler's security deposit. March 3rd, $317 for breaks. June 14th, $900 for the AC repair. November 22nd, $242. 81 for Thanksgiving groceries. Saturday night. "You asked for $1,200 after calling me the family ATM in public." Denise smiled without warmth. "Claire, families support each other. Listing ordinary help like this is deeply sad. So is lying about emergencies." That landed. Tyler shifted. Martin looked at Denise. Rosa said nothing. I held up 2 screenshots. This was Denise texting me that Tyler had nowhere to go. This was Tyler at a rooftop bar the night before, posting bottle service and a much-needed reset. "You told me Monday was eviction." Tyler admitted on the phone the actual rent shortfall was $640. Denise finally spoke through her teeth. "You are spying now." "No," I said. "I'm noticing." Then Denise said the one thing she should have kept to herself. Denise laughed once, short and ugly. "Fine," she said. "Yes, some of it wasn't rent. Because every time Tyler falls behind, your father freezes, and I'm the one who has to fix it. You think I enjoy begging you? I did what worked." Martin looked at her. "Denise." But she was already moving, too angry to perform anymore. "Claire has always had money," she said, pointing at me. "Not rich money, but enough. Enough for an apartment alone. Enough for savings. Enough to say no without ending up on the street. Do you know what that looks like to people trying to hold everything together?" I actually felt my body go still. So that was it. Not emergency. Entitlement sharpened by resentment. Rosa leaned back in her chair. "You resented her stability, so you billed her for it." Denise ignored her. Half the time Martin didn't even know specifics because he would have made it awkward. I kept peace. I managed things. Martin's face drained. "You told me Claire offered sometimes." Denise turned on him instantly. "Because she usually did." "That is not the same thing," he said, and it was the first time all week I had heard real anger in his voice. Tyler shoved his chair back. "Can we not act like I'm some criminal? Everybody helped me." "No," I said. "I helped you. Repeatedly. And you mocked me for making it harder." He opened his mouth, then closed it. I slid one last page toward Martin. It was the list of dates next to the total. Not dramatic. Not cinematic. Just accumulation. Proof that my generosity had been treated like a household utility. My father read the number again. $18,430. 67. He looked older than I had ever seen him. I didn't know, he said quietly. That should have felt good. Vindication. Instead, it made me furious. You didn't ask, I said. Nobody spoke after that. Denise's breathing was sharp. Tyler stared at the wall. Rosa folded her hands. My father sat in the center of a mess he had enabled by refusing to look directly at anything difficult. Then Denise did what people like her do when facts corner them. She started to cry and said I had abandoned the family just like my mother had. If Denise had slapped me, I think it would have hurt less. The room went dead. Even Tyler looked stunned. My mother did not abandon anyone. She died after 8 months of chemo, and Denise knew that. She had cried at the wedding over how much she wished she could have met her. She had borrowed my mother's pie plate for holidays. She knew exactly where the blade was when she reached for it. Aunt Rosa stood up so fast her chair scraped the floor. That is a filthy thing to say, she said. I did not scream. I did not throw anything. I just stood, picked up my folder, and looked at my father. If there was ever a moment for him to do something unmistakable, that was it. He said my name. Just my name. Claire. No correction. No defense. No get out of my house, Denise. Just a tired, frightened man asking me to absorb one more wound so he would not have to choose a side out loud. So I chose for him. I'm done, I said. I walked out while Denise was still crying. The next few weeks felt like grief with administrative tasks attached. I blocked Denise everywhere. I muted Tyler after one final text. Hope being selfish keeps you warm at night. And then blocked him too. Martin left 3 voicemails in 12 days. In each one he sounded sadder, but never clearer. He wanted coffee. He wanted to talk when emotions settle. He wanted me to understand how complicated marriage was. I didn't call back. Instead, I did boring, life-saving things. I met with a therapist through my school's employee assistance program. I moved $400 from each paycheck into savings and did not touch it. I got my transmission fixed. I stopped checking the family group chat. I started saying the full truth out loud when friends asked why I seemed different. I was financially exploited by people I loved, and I'm trying to recover. The guilt didn't vanish. It came in waves, usually at night. But relief came too, quietly. My refrigerator stayed full. My bank balance stopped lurching. I could plan a month without bracing for someone else's emergency. Then my father sent one text that made my stomach drop again. My father's text said, I'm sorry I let it get this far. I paid Tyler's rent myself. Denise and I are taking space. I know that doesn't fix anything. I read it 3 times in the school parking lot before work, my coffee cooling in the cup holder. 10 months earlier, that message would have sent me sprinting back into the role I knew best. Fixer over problems I didn't create. This time I just sat there and noticed something new. I didn't know anyone immediate relief. I texted back at lunch. I'm sorry too. I love you, but I'm not discussing Denise, money, or Tyler unless it's honest and specific. If we rebuild, it has to look different. He replied with only, I understand. Maybe he did. Maybe he didn't. Healing in real families is rarely clean enough for a movie ending. Martin and I eventually met for coffee in January. He admitted he had let Denise handle the emotional side of the family because confronting conflict exhausted him. I told him passivity has a cost, and other people usually pay it. I never got a real apology from Denise. I got one email. Mistakes were made, feelings got hurt, misunderstandings grew. Tyler sent a meme from a burner number and then, months later, a one-line text asking if I knew any cheap apartments. I deleted both. What changed wasn't them. Not really. What changed was me. I stopped confusing access with love. I stopped treating my ability to endure as proof that I should. I learned that guilt is not always a sign you're doing something wrong. Sometimes it's withdrawal from a role other people benefited from. I learned that family helps family can be beautiful when it moves both ways and poisonous when it only travels toward the most responsible person. The practical takeaway is boring, which is probably why it matters. Keep records, ask follow-up questions, never send money faster than truth, and if someone makes you feel cruel for needing clarity, pay attention.